Kelly scored 73% in history, where the class mean was 68% and the standard deviation was 10.2%. In mathematics, she scored 66%, where the class mean was 62% and the standard deviation was 6.8%. In which subject did Kelly perform better compared with the rest of her class? See, we need to assume that the scores for both subjects were normally distributed. So when we're told something like this, we are interested in standardized scores. So this is normalizing. So a standardized score, and they're often called Z scores. All right, that standardized score. Standardized score equals x minus mu over sigma. X minus mu over sigma. So what that does, it takes any normal distribution and it transforms it onto the standard normal distribution, which has a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. So what it does, if you end up with a standardized score of 0, it means you got exactly the average score. If you have a standard deviation of 1, it means you were exactly 1 standard deviation above the mean. If you had a standard deviation of -1, it means you're 1 standard deviation below the mean. So for Kelly, what we're going to do, we're going to get a standardized score for history and a standardized score for maths. So it looks like she's above average in both. So we're going to then do x minus mu over sigma, and then whichever comes out with the highest value, it tells us how many standard deviations above the mean she is, and whichever value is higher, that means she's performed better compared to her classmates. Right, so history, her Z score, standardized score, equals x minus mu over sigma. So it's the actual score, take away the mean over the standard deviation. So you see how far it is from the mean and in which direction, and then you divide it by the standard deviation, and that tells you how many standard deviations it is. So her actual score was 73, the mean score was 68, and the standard deviation was 10.2. So let's have a look at that. 73 minus 68, I'm just going to write 5 in there, over 10.2, which gives us an answer of 0.490. So she's approximately half a standard deviation above the mean. Maths. Right, Z score equals x minus mu over sigma. Equals, so in maths she got 66%, the mean score in maths was 62, over, and then the standard deviation is lower, so 6.8%. Okay, 66 minus 62 over 6.8. And that gives us an answer of 0.588. So actually, relative to her classmates, even though her math score was a lower percentage, she only got 66% in the maths exam, it had a lower mean, so that sort of shows it's more difficult. And it had a lower standard deviation, which means a lot of the scores were closer together, which means you kind of get a taller curve. But in the maths exam, she was 0.588, so nearly 0.6 standard deviations above the mean. And in history, she was only just under 0.5 standard deviations above the mean. So relative to the rest of her class, she did better in maths.